Hi, this is Trey Passer. Welcome to my review with spoilers of Stargirl Season 3, Episode 12. This is Chapter 12, called the Last Will and Testament of Sylvester Pemberton, who aka Starman. Okay, excuse me. This episode was mind-blowing. Lots of surprises in this episode. Again, we have one more episode after this one, but this episode had a lot of reveals, a lot of spoilers in this that just blew my mind. Just was like insane. We finally catch up with Rick, who's in his house. You see him in his house, and he's gearing himself up, trying to take off the hourglass. And he tries to take it off, and then he takes it off. And he gets immediate withdrawals, like a drug addict. The room starts spinning and everything else, and he can't handle it, and he has to put it back on to stop. He's like an addict, I guess, by taking that eliminator out of there. Okay, he really screwed up. Okay, and also, like I said, we have the new team up with the All Stars with Cindy, Jakeem, and Mike. They're looking in the old JSA, old ISA headquarters, looking around, looking for stuff. And Cindy is telling them that she was looking at all her old father's labs and trying to find a cure for what he did, that he experimented. And she explains to them that he experimented on her ever since she was a little girl, and she's slowly changing into something. And Jakeem says, "You know what? I want to help." And he pulls out the thunderbolt, the pin to make a wish. And Mike tells him, "Be careful, don't be careful and think about this before you do this." But he said, "I want to help Cindy." So he goes, "I wish the thunderbolt takes us to a lab that has what Cindy needs, basically." And it, bush, they vanish, and they actually turn up into a lab that actually is the place and they actually see that somebody actually has been there working on there. And, of course, Cindy's happy, and, they start looking around. And then I'll come back to them. And then, of course, later we see Courtney and Courtney is talking to Courtney and Pat are talking about Jordan McKent and everything that's happening in the Ultra Humanite, and Barbara walks in the room, said we don't believe Icicle at all. We do have to stop them because we know Jordan's planning something. And Pat says Pat and Courtney go down to the basement to look for Sylvester, but he's not there. He leaves a note saying he has to do something first. Okay, and then later we see Artemis. She's in their parents' gym, and she's looking around and looking at the boxing gloves and stuff, and obviously thinking about her parents and stuff. And she pulls out, and she's dressed like she's ready to, in her costume, like she's getting ready to, go take out Jordan. And you see her pull out the bat, and she's, and then of course you see Starman walk in the room, and she said, "What do you want, Mr. Pemberton?" And he said, "Listen, your parents wanted, the best for you." And she says, "I'm going to kill." And what are you going to do? And she goes, "I'm going to kill Jordan McKent." And he says, "Listen, you can't do it. You got to do what your parents. Your parents were proud of you. They want, they fought to get you, success. You should, do your parents proud and go to college." And she says, "What? Does he get a pass?" And she said, "No, he doesn't get a pass." He said, "I'm going to do a favor for you. I'm going to take him out. Okay, I'm going to take him out. Okay." And then we cut from that scene, and then we see Sylvester. He goes to the gym, not to the gym, to the garage where Yolanda and Beth are there, and they're talking, and he's telling them, "Listen, you two, keep the legacy alive, because a lot of the JSA members that died didn't have kids. Some of them did, but a lot of them didn't. And we need to keep, the legacy alive with, for the JSA for the future." He's, giving trying to give them this inspirational speech, and he said he's going to go confront Jordan, and they want to come with him, but he said, "Listen, don't worry about, because." They have the parents who have powers, and then Cameron, of course, has powers too. And they said, "Let's go with you to be your backup." He said, "Listen, I know what's going to happen tonight. The teacher is missing. The art teacher is missing, and Jordan and Cameron, and his parents are going to go to a memorial for him, to a vigil for him. So, he'll be Icicle. Jordan will be by himself, and then I'll confront him by myself." He said, "Don't worry about it." And she said, "Listen, you sound like Beth said, you sound like you're not coming back." He said, "Don't worry about it. I'm coming back. Don't worry about it. I'm coming back. I'll be back." But, and then he leaves. Okay. And then later we see Jordan not Jordan, because we see Sylvester in the basement. You know, he has the suit, and he's getting ready to go out, and Pat comes down there, confront him, and said, "Listen, I don't want you going to the house by yourself. Listen, that's suicide trying to take him out by yourself, and we don't want you to kill him, be a killer like that." And Sylvester just loses it, and he's like unnecessarily cruel to Pat, saying, "You'll not be nothing but a sidekick. You are annoying." He said, "In the night that we fought the ISA, you distracted me when I specifically told you to stay behind. You came there, you distracted me at the crucial moment, and got me killed." He said, "Listen, this is what's going to be." He said, "You are nothing but a sidekick, and that's all you'll ever be." He was like unnecessarily cruel to Pat, and then he goes upstairs, and he sees Courtney is like right by the door to the basement, with the staff. And he asked her, "Did you hear what I said?" He said, "Yeah." She said, "I heard every bit of it, what you said to Pat." And she basically tells him the story about how she thought he was her father for the longest time, but it wasn't. And I was so disappointed. But Pat was there for me. She said, when I got hurt, when Brainwave came after me, Pat was there for me. When Cindy hurt me and Pat took me to the hospital. He was there for me. When my real father came and wanted that locket, and I was devastated, Pat was there for me. Pat is, Pat Dugan. She said, "I used to think that you were my hero, son, but no, Pat Dugan is my hero, and I'm glad he's my father." I thought that was just a great emotional moment. And Starman is like, "Okay, yeah, I need the staff." Okay. And she says, "No, I'm not giving it to you." And he goes, "Okay, staff." And the staff comes to him. Cosmo comes to him. And she tries to call it back, but it doesn't go to her. And, Courtney's like devastated that she doesn't have the staff anymore and it's not listening to her. And Starman walks out. He said, "Listen, I'll be back." And he walks out with the staff. Okay, so then we see Pat going to, he's telling Barbara and Courtney and Yolanda, "Listen, and Beth, I'm going to go try to stop Sylvester from killing Icicle Jordan." So he goes to the garage to get Stripe. And of course he goes there and Zeke is there, and you see Stripe is in a million pieces, well, not a million pieces, in a couple of pieces. And Zeke says, "Listen, Starman was just here and he just, he wrecked it and then flew off." And then Zeke tells him, "Listen, look at what he's trying to do. He's purposely trying to push you away so you don't get hurt, and the other JSA members don't get hurt. He's going to take it upon himself to try to take that Icicle before he hurts anybody else. Okay, he's doing that on purpose. He's trying to push you away on purpose so you don't get hurt." Okay, and Pat figures, he said, "Okay, he's just trying to do that. So, but still, I'm not going to let him go alone." And he says, "I got an idea." And Zeke says, "Well, listen, it's going to take me hours to put this back together again." He said, "Listen, I got another idea." And then later we cut to the McKinn's house and we see somebody walking up with a flamethrower. And then we see actually it's Pat with a flamethrower, okay, strapped to his back. And he enters the McKinn's house and he's looking around in the dark. It's completely dark. He's looking around. And then he, goes to a couple of rooms and then all of a sudden he runs into Sylvester. Okay. And and Pat says, "Listen, I understand what you were trying to do. You're trying to push me away so, we don't get hurt. But I can't let you do this. I won't, you're my friend. We're partners." Okay. And then Sylvester apologizes. He says, "Listen, all that stuff I said back to you at the house, and Pat says, don't worry about it. I know you just did that to try to protect me." Okay. And then we cut back to another scene in the lab where Cindy and Jakeem and Mike are looking at stuff and looking around. And then they see a slab with looks like a body on it. Okay. Okay. And Cindy slowly pulls it off and it reveals, and it's stinking because it's been down there for a while. And we see it's actually Dragon King. And they're looking at it and she says, "It's my father." And then you see a closer shot and you see his head is opened up. And she said, "Oh, his brain is missing." Okay. And and she's like freaking out. She said, "Oh my God, his brain is missing." And then we see the Ultra Humanite come in through another entrance and says, "Hello, my daughter." And then, says, "Oh my God, that's my father. My father put his brain into the Ultra Humanite." So now you're thinking, wait a minute. So the Ultra Humanite, his brain is, Dragon King's brain is in the Ultra Humanite's body. So where is the Ultra Humanite's brain in? And then we cut to a scene back at the house with Pat and Starman looking around, and Pat's in front of him, and then all of a sudden Starman takes the staff and bashes Pat over the head and knocking him out. And then we see the scar on the back of Starman's or Sylvester's head. And now you figure out, oh, Ultra Humanite is actually in Pat. And at the beginning of this episode, they did a very clever thing. They actually showed you a scene of Dolores, the actress who the Ultra Humanite was inside his body years ago, her body, excuse me, even to the fact where she won an Academy Award acting in a movie. And so that just plays to the scene that you see later. And then we find out later when you see after Pat's knocked out and Starman's there, or the Ultra Humanite who's in Starman's body. Then we see Jordan, come up to him and say, "What are we going to do now? What are we going to do with him now?" And the Ultra Humanite / Starman says, "I'll take care of him." Okay, and then we cut to a scene of the Starman / Ultra Humanite has Pat in the grave, and he's basically shoveling dirt on him. And Pat is trying to talk and say, "Wait, and what's going on?" And then he breaks down the story of how it happened, how the staff, what Dr. McNider said was right. The cosmic staff kept Starman's body alive, but not his brain. So not his brain, not so much. So he decided he was, tired of being, as an Ultra Humanite, he always had to hide and stuff. But he was tired of being hide. He wanted to be seen again, just like when he was in the body of the famous actress Dolores Winter. So they came up with a plan to put his brain into Starman's body. And he's been playing along, and he explains how since the end of season 1, he's been going around to find as much as he can about Starman and stuff. Visiting Mike's mom and all the other people and stuff to get information so he could act like Starman. And remember, he / she was an actor, so that's why the Ultra Humanite could pull off acting like Starman, and which just completely blew my mind exactly because I thought at first that the killer was Dr. Ito, which is Dragon King. But it turns out Dragon King is involved. And he was the one in the flashback. You see, he's the one that actually successfully put her brain into the albino gorilla. And so I guess what happened is that he put her brain into Starman's body, and then put his brain, into I guess this. In any event, Dr. Ito got his brain Dragon King got his brain put into the Ultra Humanite's body, and Dragon King put Ultra Humanite's brain into Starman's body. Okay, so that's how that works. So again, that completely blew my mind, and it makes sense now because he explains how he did all these things to drive the JSA apart, like telling Rick to take out the Eliminator, which made him all super cranky and stuff. And he encouraged Yolanda to not trust Cindy. Okay, so he was actively working to mess up the JSA, which is part of Jordan's plan. But we don't know exactly because he was throwing dirt on Pat and trying to explain. And you see he's like, and Pat even says to him when he's tired, he said, "You're sick." Yeah, but you see he's so caught up in the role. Pat tries to use psychology on him and say, "Listen, you don't want to do this. Help me out. We're buddies and stuff." And since Ultra Humanite is so caught up in being an actor, he almost fell for it. He was actually put the shovel down for a minute, and he was going to reach in and pull him out. But then he said, "Oh, wait a minute. You always had me." Okay, because he's so caught up in and he even says, I think, that I get so caught up in the role, he loses himself, that sometimes he forgets that he's just playing a character, and he gets so caught up in it. Okay, I thought that was just brilliant writing and plotting. And then we also flash back to Cindy and Mike and Jakeem, who are actually, terrified that, we see Dragon King, who's in Ultra Humanite's body, okay, and Cindy whispers to them, when I say run, get ready to run. And she's talking to her father, and then she picks up this canister and throws it at him, which, causes big explosion, and they start running, okay, and the episode ends with, Sylvester, aka Starman / Ultra Humanite, is explaining the plan to Pat. Well, Pat's basically tied up in a grave, getting dirt shoveled on him, and he's talking, and then he says, "Pat," and then he looks down and he sees that the grave is fully covered with dirt, and that's how it ends. That's how the episode ends. Oh yeah. Also, let me back up a bit because Rick actually comes to the house. Courtney and Beth and Yolanda are going to actually go to Rick and see if they can actually help him, because Beth told him about him snapping before when they actually would take off the eliminator and stuff. And so Courtney is slowly figuring it out, because she's saying that, you know, when they actually sit down and talk, Rick actually comes to their house. When they're actually going to see him, he comes to the house and he tells a story about how Sylvester told him to take out the eliminator thing. And Beth talking about she read about it, how it affected his father, Rick's father, when he did that too. He was having a hard time too. He said, why would Sylvester tell you that? And you see the wheels turning in Courtney's head, that something's not right with Starman, okay? And I think she's slowly figuring it out, okay? And like I said, the episode ends with Pat buried in a grave with dirt all over him. And it's just, and that's how it ends. This episode completely blew my mind. I just didn't see this coming. I didn't see the Dragon Kings being in Ultra Humanite's body, and I didn't see the Ultra Humanite actually being in Pat's body. Not Pat's body, in Sylvester's body, and Starman, aka Starman's body. I did not see that coming at all. That completely blew my mind, but it makes kind of perfect logical sense the way the season played out. And just great writing, and the show can't end. I just hope somebody picks it up. But so we got the finale next week, and I cannot wait to see how they wrap this up, because this is just insane. Okay, I think the actress who plays Courtney Brett Bessinger said that they shot 2 endings just in case they pick it up for the 4th season. I'm praying that some other streaming service picks it up, whether it's Netflix or Amazon or Apple TV, somebody, or HBO Max, somebody picks this up for the show can end after 3 seasons. It's just too good, in my opinion. Anyway, let me know what you think of this episode. Again, this episode completely blew my mind, and I think it was the best episode of the season, because it explained like everything. It was just completely blew my mind. Anyway, links to my social media in the description box: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also have a link to my other channel, Club Views and Opinions. You can check that out as well. Also have a link down below to my Patreon. I want to say a special thank you to my Patreon. Okay, my Patreon, which is only $5 a month. I have tons of content on there, tons of unedited content on there, a bunch of DC shows on there, Marvel shows. I got Obi-Wan Kenobi, The Book of Boba Fett, The Boys Season 3. I got all 4 parts of Zack Snyder's Justice League. Follow link below to the Patreon. Check it out. Also, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps the channel, and I truly appreciate it. Also, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you know when I upload new content to this channel. And this is Trey Pastor saying so long, and take care.